If you're in B2b sales and struggling to close deals, it might be because you're having the right conversation with the wrong person. Let me explain. We all know B2B sales are very different to consumer sales, and it takes a different approach to grow your business. Over the last couple of weeks, I've had 2 separate workshops with some new clients that were struggling to grow. And very early on in the workshop, we uncovered a critical insight that really transformed their business. And once we fixed that insight, literally the next day, the conversations they were having with customers was leading to more proposals that led to more sales. As we are working through their proposition, their channel and route to market, it became really apparent that whilst they understand the problem they solve, they understand how to fix that problem for the customers, what they weren't really doing is having the right conversations with the right people in the business, because they hadn't spent time understanding their buyer's purchase process. They were focused on getting their message out to their customers without thinking about how the purchaser wants to purchase and makes decisions in buying their goods and services. Now, both of these clients work in the B2B services, professional services space, and I have a really simple model that I use that prompts an understanding of how a customer or how a potential customer makes a decision to buy. As I said, it's quite different from the consumer process. In essence, there are 3 personas within a business that make up the buying decision. And those personas may be one person, it may be a committee of people, or in really small businesses, it's the same person has 2 of those roles. So let's look at those roles. The first role is the decision maker or approver. They're the ones that are accountable for the outcome. They're the ones where the buck stops if that problem continues, if things go awry. Then there's the recommender. This is typically the person that is responsible for the outcome, the person that coordinates and may even do the work. They're the ones who at year end, at review time, get marked on how they've done with that particular problem or that particular area of the business. And then depending on the size of the business, there's the user, the actual person doing the work. So those 3 personas, the user, the recommender and the approver, all have different needs and different drivers to how they want a solution solved or how they want to be communicated from a vendor or someone trying to sell them a product. So it's hugely important that we understand the difference between each of those 3 personas. So your job is to understand your ideal client and understand those 3 roles within your ideal client and what their drivers are and how you tailor the message to each of those drivers. And equally important to that, what's the entry point you have into the business? Do you start at the top and that gets pushed down and then the recommender makes a recommendation and pushes that back up to the approver? Is it user driven or is it recommender driven, meaning the recommender is looking for a better way of solving that problem? Depending on the entry point that you have, depends on the messaging and literally how you market to those customers. And if you get it wrong, as my 2 clients were getting it wrong, you end up having the right conversation, so it's all the right things, with the wrong person. And so you need to understand those 3 personas and then understand the right conversation to have with the right person. If you look at one of my clients, they were really struggling to close deals. They had a great proposition, but they were just struggling to close those deals because they were having the conversation at the approver level before they were having the conversation at the recommender level. So they were pitching the features, the benefits, the business case, how the process would be improved. But whilst the approver was ultimately accountable for the outcome, really they didn't care what spanner the recommender or users used. They just wanted to be compliant to this process. And so when we uncovered this and then said we need to focus in on the recommender, have a very similar conversation with the recommender, help get them over the line, and then help them build the case to the approver. Literally overnight, frustration started to turn up in sales because we were having the right conversation with the right person. Now that will differ by business type, by service that you're selling, but those three personas don't necessarily differ. You need to understand what the three drivers of those personas are, and then where you come into the business and how you message that and how you support that person to make the decision that takes you forward. So if you work in B2b sales, there's three things that you need to do to be more successful. The first is use my framework and identify who is the approver, who is the recommender, and who is the user. Secondly, work out what the typical purchase process is within that business. So you can work out then who is the one that needs to see your market messages and who you need to start to market to. And then once you've done that, tailor your message, and you'll more than likely have the right messaging framework, but tailor your message to that person that is a person that instigates that conversation, and then help them see how you can improve their situation, and then how they can sell that further up if they need to move it up to the approver. It's a really simple model to use, and it will help you identify what conversations to have with what person, and then you can start to have the right conversations with the right person instead of the wrong conversation with the right person, as our clients were previously doing.